Alright, welcome back. I'm Travis. This is Travis Goes There on guitar. And today I'm going to show you your first chords, your notes, and get you a little bit familiar with this instrument here. If you watch one of my informational videos, I talked to you about the types of guitar and that you don't really need a fancy one. This guitar right here is it's kind of like a mid-range guitar. It's a good, reliable guitar, but I learned on a one that you could fit your fingers in between the strings and the neck, which is not good. It was very painful to play, but it worked. And I went through a number of guitars like that before I really invested in a really good guitar, right? And then I was thankful that I did at that time, but I'm also thankful that I learned on a not so good of a guitar, because now I understand what a good guitar looks, feels like, sounds like, and all that. So, as I said before, I recommend an acoustic guitar to learn on. You can have your electric and other things, but you're going to need you'll be spending a couple $100 on like an amplifier or things like that, unless you just intend to, which I also went through this stage as well. Had an electric guitar for a while and then played it with no amplifier. So you can do that, but I recommend just finding an acoustic guitar, whether it's a nylon string guitar or a steel string. This is a steel string guitar, and just find one that does the job. If you're lucky enough, you'll find one that the strings are not so high up and it's not hard to play, but that should not keep you from playing. The most important thing is that you just play. Keep your guitar out on your guitar stand, and you hit that thing, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you have time for. Hit it throughout the day, multiple times a day, because that's what's going to take you further than anything, is just the amount of time that you put into it, and proper practice, which is what I intend to teach you, how to practice properly, practice the right things. That way you get the maximum benefit from the guitar, and it's not such a frustrating journey as it can be. First thing I want to show you, and that you need to familiarize yourself with the guitar, these strings. You need to know, it is very important for you to know the names of these strings, right? You have 6 of them obviously on a guitar, on most guitars, but definitely on an acoustic guitar. This top one, which is actually what we musicians call the bottom, it's the heaviest string, it's the biggest string. We call this the bottom string, and this one is the top. The bottom is actually the top. The small string is the highest one, so they call that the top. If you're fretting notes and this is called going up the neck, whereas it looks down the neck. So it's kind of opposite in your mind, but that's when we're talking in music. That's what we're talking about. We're going up the neck, down. This is down, and this is up. This is the lowest, and this is the highest, as far as pitch of the string. This is your E string, right? The biggest one, E. The next one is your A string. This is how I'm going to be referring to everything. Whenever I'm showing you any type of technique or on any string, I'm going to be referring. So this is why I say this is important for you to know these strings. It's not just important for as we're concerned in how I'm teaching you, but as you go forth and you're learning in other ways, this is always going to be the same, and it's always going to be the case. You're rarely going to find someone teaching you that this is the top string, because it's not. It's the bottom string. It's your E string. This one underneath it is A string. This one underneath that, D. Then you have your G string, your B string, this top string here, your small string is an E also. This is an E, that's an E. They're both E's, but they're further down from each other. One's down here, and one's up here, the E, but they're both E's. If you play them together, you'll hear that they're the same, provided your guitar is in tune. That is something I'll go into you with maybe on the next time, but right now I just want to get you playing. If you can get your guitar tuned by one of your buddies that knows how to tune a guitar, or take it to a guitar shop, let them tune you, or have someone show you look it up on another channel, and they'll show you how to tune it. I'll show you later, and I'll give you a reference that you can keep with you, and then you can use that. But today I just want to concentrate on getting you doing something, so you don't just have a guitar and it's just sitting around. You should be always progressing towards something. All right? So next is the pick. I'm predominantly I play with this thumb pick. It's made by Fender, which is the same as my guitar here. Just fits on my thumb. You can use just your fingers like this, or you can use a pick, a standard pick. It's not like this, but if you want to hold your pick, even the normal pick, it's not a thumb pick, it's still going to be like this. You still hold it in the same way. I use both because I use my fingers. It's just a style of music I like. It's a style of music that I teach. Because I like to be able to strum, play with my fingers. Stuff like that. It's hard to do that with, and sometimes impossible to do with just a flat pick. So it is your choice how you choose to play. All of the things I'm going to teach you, it doesn't matter really what kind of, especially at first, it's not going to matter what pick you choose. I'm just going to show you basic techniques, kind of pitfalls and things to watch out for when you're playing, things to make your journey a little bit easier on you. That way you don't get stuck and feel like you're not learning anything. If you do what I say, you'll learn. You'll steady learn and keep going up. All right. First thing I want to do, these right here, you see these metal parts in your guitar. These are called frets, right? And when you push down on a string, they call it fretting a note, right? Whenever you fret your note, we'll go from here on 5, for example, which is your A, E, F, G at 3, and here at 5 is that dot. Normally guitars have dots. They're position markers. Mine's just got one on 5, but you'll see a lot of them have them on 3 too. But you just need to know where you're at. I'm on 5 right now. When you fret a note, you want to have that. First, you press down just enough to where it's not rattling, like that. Press down to, you'll get used to that pressure. Just hit it a few times. You want it close to the metal rather than being up here. Closer to here. Doesn't have to be on the metal, but you'll get used to it. The more you fool around with it and the more you practice, you'll get used to where that finger needs to be. And your finger needs to be on the tip. If you can see the line on my finger, you'll get lines on your fingers and calluses. It's going to hurt at first. That's part of your journey as well. But your fingers, when they're coming down on the fretboard, which is what this is called, they need to be on the tips here. If it's going across the pad of your fingers, it's wrong. There are certain chords that you'll be making, groups of notes, that will require you to lay your finger or fingers across the whole. But in general, to make your chord sound clean, your fingers need to be on your tips, right there. Also, let's talk about your hand position as well, so you can easily get your fingers bent like this, because you need to have them bent. That's how they're going to look, for the most part, when you're putting down. They're coming straight down on. If you push or pull to one side, you're going to pull the strings out of tune, and it's not going to sound good. It'll sound out of tune. It's not good. You don't have to, when you put your fingers on the guitar, we'll just go back to the one finger. You don't have to have your hand clear up like this to get your finger on the tip. You just need really to bend your fingers like this. That's it. You can help it a little bit if you're having a hard time bend your fingers. It doesn't matter whether your fingers are fat or skinny or short or anything like that. You just need to find your way that you can get that finger on your tip. You also need to have your thumb on the back of the neck, like a clamp. For this, in this exercise that I'm about to show you, think of it like this, kind of like a sock puppet. But I always think of it as a clamp, because that's what you're doing, is you're using your thumb as leverage to push that down. You don't want to use a lot of strength. You just push enough. Experiment around with it and see where that sweet spot is on your guitar. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Hit that a few times. Okay? That is your A, as I showed you before, right? But I'll explain that further. Next thing I want you to do is keep your finger there. Don't move your hand. The next finger. Same thing, you want it up on your fingertips. Make sure it's not rattling. Just enough pressure. You don't have to be pressing with this one because the string's already down. So you can let up the pressure here. The pressure should be here. And these fingers should be relaxed, right? Not stiff like that. That's not good, okay? Only the parts that you're using need to have tension on it. The other parts of your body, your shoulders, your neck, you'll find all that your tension will go all over your body. What you need to be very aware of is the tension that you're putting in your hands, or in your shoulders, or in your legs, or in your tongue, or any other part of your body. But right here is where it shows up the most. These fingers here need to be relaxed. When you need this finger, then you move on to your next finger. Again, these three are all relaxed. They're near where they need to be. You want one finger on each fret. And just pluck it. Make sure it's clean. Make sure your fingers, it's on your fingertip, that you're pressing down with just enough, not too much, that you're pulling it out of tune. Find that sweet spot. As you go from your index finger, and then your pinky at the end, your hand is staying in the same position. You're not moving it. You're not moving your thumb. You're not moving any of that. You can challenge yourself. Your fingers at first, they'll want to come up. You'll see a lot of people, they want to play like this. If your goal is to be, fast or efficient, which is what I would prefer anybody to do if they're learning, is just be efficient at what you're doing, and then you'll be fast, right? You don't need to play like lightning. You need to play smooth, right? Clean. With the cleanliness and smoothness will come the speed you'll be able to do. If you can't play clean, slow, then you'll never be able to play clean, fast either. It's just going to sound like crap. You don't want that. Just be patient enough to develop this. Light fingers. Light fingers. This pinky's not going to want to cooperate, and this your ring finger is not real all that cooperative at first either. But you have to force it to be cooperative. Sometimes I even remember I used to have to force my fingers. I didn't start doing these exercises, which was a mistake. I started in a time where I didn't have all this information available to me. So I had to go with just what I know, which is with chords, which is I'll show you next. But I remember literally having to force my pinky to do what I wanted it to do, because it would just slide, and I would have to force it. That's okay, because after a while, if you do it, you'll find that it's going to get a little bit easier every time you do it. You start getting frustrated with it, put it down, go do something else, go play a video game, do whatever, but then come back to it. That's the purpose of keeping your guitar out. Put it on your stand, walk away from it, go eat, go do something, come back to the guitar later. You'll find that each time that this is going to get a little bit easier and a little bit easier. What I want you to do is every day to warm up your fingers a little bit, just like stretching before you run or something. I want you to go through this. When this becomes comfortable, Move on to the next string. Only go as fast as you can do it. I want you to go in the end. Keep it from rattling. Just use finesse. Then you can go back. You can go backwards, you can go forward. But the main thing I want you to do and pay attention to is keep your fingers close. Don't have them flying all over the place like this. Like that. That habit will hinder your speed and your development of your fingers. Practice keeping them very close. If you can't even do it that fast, it's okay. Go slower. Go as slow as you need to do it to make it clean. Even if it's like this. Because it very well may be at first. Because what you want is you want that hand in the same position and those fingers in the same position and every note clean, not rattling. Okay? Practice that every day. And you'll find that every day you'll get a little bit quicker. And then I'm going to give you a tool at the end of it to help that. So you can even measure and see that that is true. Okay? I'm going to show you one chord today. Just so you feel like you're doing something. Okay? Besides just experiment around with that. Like I said, you can go backwards. However you do it, but pay attention to those fingers. Pay attention to the hand. Pay attention to the tension that you're holding in your body. When you sit down with the guitar, I recommend this. Just sit there. That's how you feel when you're relaxed, unless there's something making you nervous at that point, right? This is how it feels to be relaxed. When you put your hand on the guitar, you put your arm up here, you have your hand dangling here. That's how it feels to be relaxed. You want to keep that feeling while you're playing. Your arms should not be getting tired. Your shoulders, you should not be feeling pains in your neck. If you're feeling that, stop what you're doing and evaluate what it is that's causing that pain. Because playing the guitar does not make your neck hurt. It doesn't make your feet hurt. It doesn't make you grind your teeth. There should only be tension where you need. You should only be doing the work where you need it to be done. These fingers you should be able to, they should be loose. They're going to have a little bit of tension in it, but you want to manage that as most as you can. You don't want to your hands, you'll hurt your fingertips, right? You can't press them down so hard that the string's going to go through. They're metal strings, so you don't want them, the tips of your fingers, especially while you're building calluses in your hands, there's nerves in there, and you will feel that. It'll feel like it's slicing through. So you have to pay very close attention, especially at first, so you don't develop a habit of pressing too hard on those strings. Press as much as you need to. Experiment around and find that sweet spot, like I said before. Once you find that and you get used to it, your fingers will get used to that. You won't develop a bad habit, and your progression from this will go much faster. All right? That's your exercise that I want you to do every day. You can do it once a day, whenever you start. I don't know how it is your practice, but I recommend if you're going to sit down and practice, try to get a half hour out of it. At first your fingers are going to get sore, but that's normal. They're not going to bleed, they're not going to break. They get a little bit sore. So, but the more you play through that, the longer it's going to take for them to get sore as you're playing. And you'll find that your practice time, especially if you're enjoying yourself, is going to go up, 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 up. So, okay. As I said before, this is your E string. I'm going to show you an E chord. I'll show you a couple ways to do it. You take your index finger, or not your index finger, your middle finger here, and you place it on the second fret on the A string, which is your second string down, as I told you. It's the second biggest string. Get that on the tip. Alright? Take your third finger, your ring finger, and put it on the same fret. You're just going to put it basically behind it, just like that. I don't know if you can see how well you can see it. It's hard to see it like that. So your third finger, your ring finger, is going to go on the D string. So the notes that you're fretting here so far are E, B, E, that's another E. This first finger is going to go right here, which is a G sharp. This is your G string, this is a G sharp, and I'll explain all this stuff to you on another time. But just try to remember as I show you these chords, and try to be familiar with these strings. The E, A, D, G, B, E. I like to think of it as Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. E, A, D, G, B, E. Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. 2 E's on you. Alright? So, your second finger on the A string, this is going to be open. Your second finger here. Your ring finger on the D string, and the third string down. Your index finger is going to go on the first fret on the G string, which is the fourth string down. Third one up, if that's how we're actually teaching it. Just take your pick. It's pretty. That's what you want to get used to. Go through them one at a time. So just like on these notes and this exercise, where you're practicing with no rattling. You don't want no rattling in there. I'll try to make it bad so you hear how it's not supposed to sound. You hear how they got some dead notes in there? And then a couple of them are rattling? You don't want that. It's going to be the same thing on here, except for you want to have just enough pressure on there. And again, my fingers are like this, right? You don't have to have your wrist up like that. You don't need to do that. Keep your elbow in. My wrist is more or less straight at this point. My thumb is behind the neck. Later on, you can let it creep up there a little bit. It depends on your guitar. On the classical guitar, you won't be able to get away with that. But for the most part, I tell you, keep your thumb back there, like this, so it's resting on this part right here. Just give a nice smooth sweep across. Don't dig into the strings. You don't need to dig in. Just glide that pick across, like at an angle. It's a beautiful sound. You can practice strumming. That's what this is called. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the basis, that chord right there. It's called the E shape. Even if you place something on there and you place it down here, you'll find that this shape is very repetitive throughout the neck, especially when you're playing chords, which chords are just, it's just a name for a group of notes. This is technically a chord, right? It's not necessarily the prettiest sounding chord, it's just the open strings, but it's a group of notes played at the same time. It's a chord. Okay? So this is your E chord, E. Generally speaking in music, your E, the lowest note in the group is usually going to be the name of the chord. It's not always, but for now, until I tell you different, that's generally what's going to be the case. Just strum it a few times. Experiment around with it. Make sure it sounds clean like this. Go through them one at a time like this. This is a good time if you want to play with your fingers to experiment around with them. See what your fingers will do. See what they won't do. You don't have to just keep doing the same thing, but just thing you need to pay attention to is the tension, again, that you're not squeezing, making your fingers, completely tore up, and that it's clean. Just enjoy the sound of that. It's a beautiful sound. Okay, so the tool I want to give you that to me is the most important when it comes to guitar playing, it's called a metronome. And people run for the door when they hear this, the name of this. And all a metronome is a steady 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all it is. You can get apps on your phone. I use one called Pro Metronome, but you can find them online. You can find any number of apps. There's hundreds of metronome apps. Or you can go to your music store and you can buy one that is not an app. It's just a dedicated metronome. The old school ones have a lever or a pendulum that goes back and forth. I don't really recommend those because you have to wind them up, and after a while, they kind of lose the tension, and after a while it's not keeping the same time. So it's easy enough to, and there's free ones that you can find in your app store, whether you're Android or iOS, whatever it may be. But it's a metronome. And what do you need to do with it? I'll have to show you next time. But you need to get one and get your hands on one of those, because what they're going to help you do is keep a steady time, like I said, with 1, 2, 3, 4. And you want to get used to playing like your chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just tap your foot for now if you don't. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Excuse me. Same with your exercise that I give you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You hear my foot tapping? Learn to tap your foot. Timing is the most important thing in music. A lot of people, like I said, they hear that metronome word and they run for the door. I don't know why, I think because it requires some sort of patience and a lot of discipline to sit there and listen to a tick. But you can make it more exciting than just a tick. You'll see if you download a metronome app, the different varieties. You can get tap, that, 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 that. A metronome is just providing a beat, a steady time beat, whether it's like this or you can add your own 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like that. You can do whatever. You can get very creative with your beats. So that's up to you. But the first thing I do that I recommend is that you get one. Get your hands on a metronome and get a hold of your timing from the beginning, not after you've played for a while. Listen to music. Once you start to learn some chords, and we'll teach you some more chords, and I'll even teach you some easier songs that aren't too hard to pick up. They're just basic stuff so you can get the hang of it. But listen to other people's music. Listen to the radio. Listen to your CDs. Listen to music. Try to play along with it. Figure out stuff. Go online like you're doing right now. Search out information. Challenge yourself daily on this instrument, and that's what is going to cause your growth. If you play 15 minutes a day and then put it aside and then pick it up next week, you're going to find that it's going to take a long time to get where you want to be. You're going to be looking at other people playing guitar and like, wow, how do they get so fast? Or how do they learn this so fast? It's because I guarantee you they're practicing. And they're practicing more than you are. If they're getting better faster than you are, chances are they're practicing more efficiently than you are and practicing more than you are, right? Just practice doesn't necessarily mean good, but practicing right, which I will teach you that also. but in later lessons. But this lesson is just to get you going, get your first chords, get your E, and practice this exercise. And I promise you will improve very fast, even for the next, by the time I put out the next lesson, or you come back and see the next lesson, you will have improved. That's going to be gravy after a while. Until next time, this is Travis Goes There on guitar. Keep playing.